All right, greetings everybody. I know that some of you are still going to be trickling in. That is perfectly fine. Let me just say a huge thank you. Number one to Nicole for letting me put this on. And then secondly to my lovely cohorts. This is Shannon Rigo-Buto, a very good friend of mine. Come on in, ladies. And Michael French, both of whom have been fencing for quite a while. I think also with Shannon's father, who is recording this for us, we have just about a century's worth of fencing experience here for you guys today. Yeah, and just I'm thankful for all of you guys for being here and for wanting to know what I've been doing with my Saturday mornings. A lot of you know that I've been telling you about fencing in the park and the multiple injuries I've gotten and just the genuine joy that I have felt doing this sport. This is an organization called HEMA, which stands for Historical European Martial Arts, in that it is not just, for show. A lot of people come into HEMA through pop culture, through wanting to wield a giant longsword, which you will see in a little bit, from, say, Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones, all of which, everybody wants to wield a sword and be, Needle, Arya's blade from Game of Thrones. That's partly why I came in here, is I wanted to play with swords. I mean, who doesn't? But the nice thing about HEMA is that it's also a beautiful combination of not just the show, not just the history, not just making history come to life, but the actual athletic combat that comes with it, and learning how to build up muscle, learning how to work on your footwork. There are several components to HEMA that just make it magical and fun, but also just tough as nails. I mean, it's quite the epic journey. And with that said, we're going to take you on a little historical tour of the evolution of the blade, and I will give it over to Michael to get us started.
Greetings. All right, you guys excited?
Yeah.
All right. So the history, the brief, abridged, totally 100% plausibly, maybe not accurate history of the sword.
The director says, take off your mask.
I will need it to protect my face, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, in the beginning, there was nothing. There were villages. There were farmers. There were raiders. There were raiders who want what the farmers had. There were farmers who wanted to defend what they had from the raiders. And so they had sticks. They had stones. They had sticks that threw stones. And so one day, a farmer is tending to his village when he looks up, and on the horizon, there come the raiders, coming down with their sticks. And he goes, oh no, my stick is not offensive. But what do I have here but a sharp rock that I used to use to sharpen the sticks? I slash against my opponent, her arm is now useless, and I go, wow, what an amazing tool. And so time passes.
Tick-tock.
And we come to the legendary tool that we all know and love, the sword. This is an arming sword, mostly popular during the medieval times. It is a very simple tool, a long piece of metal that sharpens on both sides, sometimes on just one side, and in such cases, the weapon might be curved. Now, curved weapons, you might see that in more Eastern traditions, like in the Middle East and Japan. We are not experts on this, unfortunately.
Go to YouTube.
Go to YouTube. But the standard sword, it is a long piece of metal that I can use to keep my opponent at bay, and I can fight my opponent with it. So I can get a strike. Again. And I get stabbed with it one more time. And my hand is not very well protected now, is it? No. See, there is a cross guard to protect my hand from blows that might slide up the blade, but my knuckles, not so much. And so enter
The buckler.
the buckler. This is a handy little instrument that can be used to protect the hand. So now I attack her hand, and it gets blocked, and I get stabbed. I attack her hand a different way, it gets blocked, I get stabbed. I get around her blade, I get close, and she He punches me in the face with the buckler and I get KO'd. How do I deal with this? Well, time passes.
Tick-tock.
And we get a new weapon, the longsword. What is it? Well, it's about the same weapon as we saw before, but longer. Advances in metallurgy and in design allow me to make a weapon that all of a sudden I can attack from a distance. I can attack to different angles and be safer. And so, thus the sword is born. Thus we have these medieval instruments of war and of dueling and of honor. And as things progress, armor gets harder, chainmail gets thicker. All of a sudden, it's hard for swords to cut through armor. All of a sudden, it's tough for swords to cut through armor. But then, a new instrument enters the battlefield.
Tick-tock.
Boom! Unfortunately, we don't have any equibi to show you, but all of a sudden, black powder enters the fray, and bullets are all of a sudden very effective against armored opponents who would be a lot heavier, a lot slower moving, and so armor requirements get lighter, but the advancements behind the sword remain, and thus we have
The side sword. This is the precursor to the more popular rapier. You'll notice that now we have a knuckle bow designed to protect the knuckles. The quillions, the crossguard, stick your sword out, are now more advanced, so I can capture my opponent's blade and take it away from him. The buckler is still used as the primary form of defense. But then a bunch of guys get together, time passes, tick-tock, and someone goes, let's put a buckler on a sword, and we get the rapier. If any of you guys remember the year 1974, you might remember a movie came out. It was called The Three Musketeers with Oliver Reed and Michael York. We have, in this era, what we like to call a swashbuckler, because you take your buckle and you swash against it. So let's say I'm a young D'Artagnan, and I see an Athos over there. I would challenge him to a duel simply by swashing against my buckler. We're play fighting because we're not wearing masks. Well, guess what happens? Time passes. Tick-tock. People go, this is beautiful. This is heavy. This is expensive. But it's still fun. It's still a great weapon of self-defense. And you can protect yourself against people with daggers of all sorts. Death, doom. This is really heavy. And now there are laws saying that I have to limit the size of my weapon, and how big it is, and how small it is. So, time passes, tick-tock. And two new swords are born. The saber for the cut, the preferred weapon of the military, the cavalryman charging across the field of battle against the artillery. And the small sword for the thrust, the weapon of the civilian and the nobleman who chooses to defend their honor. In 1954, a very excellent movie came out called Scaramouche with Stuart Granger.
Very good film.
You have also seen the small sword in movies such as Captain Blood with Errol Flynn and Basil Rathbone. This is the sword that entered the modern era successfully. So, my favorite is this one. And the small sword eventually develops into the modern sport foil and things of that nature. But with that, the small sword now is no longer a weapon of death. It is now a weapon for fun and maintaining good health.
That was only part one, folks.
Yeah.
We have a couple finer details about the parts of the blade. And actually, Shannon, I'll borrow you for one more second. So she's more well versed in, say, the anatomy and also the schools of thought, given the different stances. So specifically with the small sword, we'll talk about the parts of the blade. And Shannon, if you would.
Yes, may I borrow that one?
Absolutely.
All right, so we're going to compare the most iconically early weapon, the longsword, versus the most iconically modern weapon, the small sword. All swords have a blade, and they all have a hilt. It is from where the blade ends to back here with the pommel. Each blade has a tip, a foible known as the weak, the mid, and the forte, the strong. From here, we have different types of guards. With the longsword in the army, you have the classic cross guard. Yes, it's named after the cross, very simple. It is very good for blocking your opponent's equally long sword out of the way. Below the guard, you have the grip. It's not a handle. A handle's for pulling a door. It's grip. You have the pommel, which is where the word pummel comes from, because kadunk.
Very effective.
It is the counterweight. Without a pommel, it is not a well-made sword. Now, here's where things start to differ. The guard of the longsword is very, very simple. The metallurgy of the time did not allow for things such as the knuckle bow, or this part, the ricasso. The small sword you hold with but one hand. Hold it too tight, and you choke it. Hold it too loose, and it flies away. Meanwhile, the longsword is a two-handed weapon. Therefore, the stances are going to be different. His movements are low and wide. Oftentimes, the foot that is in the front is far away from the sword. Meanwhile, with small sword as a one-handed weapon, I am going to be in line with my opponent, one foot in the front, this hand either here to block a weapon or here in the back. You might recognize a more classic profile as this, with a beautiful lunge. And that is the anatomy of the sword.
Nice. Well done. And so with the anatomy of the sword, there's another finer detail that we're gonna build up to. Thank you so much, Shannon. But wait, one more thing.
What?
Ladies and gentlemen,
I challenge you to a duel.
we have a challenge for a duel.
How could you? I shall fight you!
Alright.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, get your protective gear on and meet at the on-guard line.
If you could sit here, it would be better.
What's that?
They're filming this.
You got this.
Now, due to limited space, we're not going to move in the full circle that you typically see at a HEMA event. Please, if you are in the front row, do not leave your chairs. You are perfectly safe.
So, this will be a demonstration of our modern fencing practices. Since we are not trying to kill each other, we will be fencing for points. For this bout, we will be going to 5 points. A thrust to the torso or the mask will be 3 points. A thrust to the arm or the leg will be 1 point, as it is a less vital target. In the event that two fencers should hit each other at the same time, nothing will be done, because if we are simulating a real duel, if both people leave bleeding, neither are satisfied. So, fence to hit your opponent without hitting back. On that note, fencers on guard. Shannon Rigobuto, are you ready?
Ready?
Eliza Marion, are you ready?
Ready.
Fence! Hold! We have a parry and a riposte from Shannon Rigobuto onto Eliza's torso. That's going to be 3 points for Shannon. Shannon. Fencers ready.
Ready?
Ready.
Fence! Hold! So, I saw the thrust to Shannon's torso. The other one was out of my view.
I did not get feedback.
All right, fencer declines the hit because it
I
went
thought I
past
got
head.
you there.
No.
No.
Oh,
You got me.
Okay.
I didn't get you.
Thank you.
It was
See,
passe.
Still learning.
Yeah. The reason for this is these are small swords. They are triangular blades. They do not have an edge. And so they can thrust, but they cannot cut. And so despite the fact that the side of her blade was touching her opponent. Because the point was not in, it does not count. Therefore, we have a thrust for Eliza Marion. So there's going to be 3 points for Eliza. Shannon also has 3 points. The next pass can decide the fate of the duel. Fencers, ready?
Ready.
And fence! Ho! We have an aggressive one. Eliza Marion that she beats the blade out of the way. Gets Shannon into a good on the torso and parries her way out, keeping her safe. Eliza Marion wins the bout. Well done, fencers.
Hey! Yay for the home team!
Were you not expecting
I
that?
was not expecting that.
We did rehearse to a point, so that was not planned.
So what she did, I gotta brag. What she did is known as a half disengage. So
I didn't realize you did it. So
a full disengage is when you start on one side of your opponent's target, you extend, you feint, you go around, and then you go in.
that's what you taught me.
Mhm.
What she did is a half disengage, where what you do is you go down and around. Now the half disengage is actually a really ballsy move.
Didn't even realize that.
Because what happens when you go into a half is you're exposing yourself to the opponent. So what she did was she beat my blade out of the way. I was going to protect up here because that's what she typically does. And she went into a half, so my sword was up here and she got me. And that's very hard to do. So you should all be very impressed with
That actually makes me feel astonished, if I'm honest. Only because it's not like I have a mirror in front of me. It's not like I can see my own moves. I can, kind of see how my body's working. I have no feedback for that. These guys are my feedback. And obviously you guys have heard the old saying, muscle memory is definitely very important. With any sort of athletic sport or athletic discipline, but it works, y'all. The wax on and wax off, that is a real thing. It actually, because I'm naturally right-handed, but my left leg is stronger, therefore I spar, or it's what we do with a bout, we spar against each other. I'm better on my left foot because I have a right knee injury. So I've been learning to spar with my non-dominant hand. And so,
which is also a hard thing to do.
yeah, she is also a lefty. So we've been having a lefty on lefty bout. But it's incredible what I've learned. And the fact that it's been so automatic, and I can impress a woman like Shannon. She was intimidating when I first fenced against her.
Is she still intimidating?
She is, no. At her full strength and aggression, she's terrifying. And so I was so intimidated by her that I was like, okay, I have to start small. I have to, kind of work my way up to her. And from Michael came in, it's such a wonderful fencing coach. And also another gentleman that I should give credit to is a man named Steve. He's not here today because of an injury, but...
not related to fencing.
Not related to, but unfortunately it keeps him from the sport that he loves. He is a coach with Noble Science. They are another local club here. And and so the fact that I'm able to impress her without even knowing it, without even having that personal kind of feedback of what my body's doing, I can just hit the stances and then win the bout. I'm hoping to get better and better and better because we have a tournament coming up called Battleborn. That's in Carson City, and it's right around Memorial Day weekend, but not actually Memorial Day
The
weekend.
weekend before Memorial Day weekend, because it is election weekend for the primaries, Memorial Day weekend, and so there'll be no place to fence.
Yeah,
Everyone's voting. Remember to vote.
yes, please vote. And so that'll be my first official tournament where I get to show off my skills. And it's incredible that I'm learning different things about my footwork and about my stances, and then it all culminates into one large, amazing bow, like what you just saw. Go ahead.
Shall we open up to Q&A?
One more thing I actually want to talk about, kind of my building blocks to what I've learned and what you guys just saw with that bout are the different stances. And also, Shannon, I'll borrow you for a second.
Okay.
There are different schools of thought with what the stances are, and I guess more or less what their names are. So I'll be kind of your model, and I can show you the different stances that there are.
En garde. En garde is the beginning stance. In the small sword, you have your sword arm in line with your front foot. You create a triangle with your feet to create a good, strong base. Present. To present is to stick out your arm in a simple straight line. This is also known as the simple attack. The main schools of small sword come from Italy and from France. I was trained mostly in the French classic style. But we will give you some Italian parries in honor of Steve, who couldn't be here today. He is more of the Italian school, and if I did not mention them, I'm sure he would challenge me to a duel.
Yes, 100%.
So, you always start with learning how to parry, because this is the art of defense. Parry prime. The prime parry protects you from simple attacks to the torso, as well as someone who might be trying to slice against you. The small sword, at its fullest, thrusts and slice. I cannot cut off her arm, but I could cut her jugular if I wanted to. Second. This is parry second. This is a high guard parry, meant to protect your face. Going for your opponent's eyes was a very good target because, again, they can't fight you if there's blood in them. It's very hard to see through your own blood. It's very popular to in the old days, it was very popular to cut across the forehead. Parry tierce. This is the third parry. This parry is meant to protect the outside of your body. Another very popular target to disable an opponent in the art of self-defense was to go for the back of the leg or the back of the knee, because again, you can't walk if those muscles aren't connected.
I would also like to add that that target is very hard to armor because it is a joint. And so you can put a full plate on top of your leg, on the top, the front of your shin, even the back of your shin, but if something has to move, you can't protect it very easily.
Parry carte. This is the parry that protects your gut. Have you ever heard of gut shot? Imagine that with a sword. Death was much longer and more painful. So parry carte protects this. This is the thing that everyone who's trying to hurt you will go for. It is also the most popular target in the sport of fencing to this day because you get the most points. Parry quinte. This is the fifth parry. Another high parry designed to protect your face, specifically this side of your face. Going for this eye was more popular because it's closer to your opponent, but going for this eye away from the opponent was also popular. Parry six. This is parry six. This is where we start entering the French tradition and we are leaving Steve's beloved Italian tradition. Parry six, much like parry tierce, protects your back. It's also good for protecting your rib cage, but your body is more in line for the riposte, which is the attack after the defense. Go back to tierce, please. To parry tierce, and she attacks, this exposes her guts. Parry six. Riposte. Now she is threatening the opponent, but her arm is not as far out, and so this arm better protects her soft target area. Do you remember parry set?
This one.
Parry set is low line, and it is to the inside. Parry set is inside. Because the parries move in diagonals. Parry set protects the groin area. It is important to be able to protect your femoral arteries. I hear there's another important part for men that they're rather fond of in that area.
Not speak of it.
And then parry oct is outside. We haven't gone over her set and her oct as much.
Yeah, we're focusing on the first 5.
This is very good. Set and oct are also very good for protecting your feet and ankles because jerks do go for the feet.
It's true.
I know, I do it all the time. Let's go over this quickly. I will do a more faster flow. So you call out for me.
Alright.
I'll parry, you call.
Oh! I'm confused. What?
I will call. Stand off to the side. Prim, secund, tierce, cart, quinte, six, set, oct.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So as you see, it all moves in diagonals because at the end of the day, you want to move with the flow of your body. You might remember a self-defense class you might have taken in the past where they're like, hey, if your body feels weird and they're like telling you to twist and you don't want to twist, don't do it. Well, it's like that in fencing. I mean, it's much faster to practice the routine of prim, secund, tierce, cart, quinte, six, set, oct, than to do it in a wiggle-willy, wobbly way. So it's always good to keep tight boxes. Would you guys like to see some longsword parries? All right, Michael is now going to take over this part. Whoop, whoop. He is our longsword expert.
Yeah.
And for those who may or may not know the history and nomenclature, I apologize. In terms of names, I'm not quite an expert, but I know the stances. So, longsword guards. This is going to be the first one that they usually teach. In German, it would be called Landtag. You normally hold the blade a little bit higher, but alas, we have a low ceiling. So I'm not going to do that.
Unless you're willing to pay the repair fee.
Also, there's a light there. I don't get electrocuted. So what this does is, as you might be able to guess, it chambers a cut across the body like that. However, a longswordman can cut from many different angles from that same guard and not cut their own leg. Another guard, you have the same stance, but you take the blade down and you point it towards your opponents. Some treatises have the blade further out to protect their hands and their legs. Some have it back in because it creates a blade that is hard to deal with. This is a guard that chambers a thrusting attack to your opponent. However, again, you can cut to any angle and thrust to any angle from that guard. As you might notice, I have switched my feet, but I'm still in roughly the same kind of guard. It does the same kind of thing. However, if I point the blade down, some people might call this the fool's guard. Now, with my blade down, there's nothing between me and my opponent, so you think I'm very vulnerable, right? Wrong. The idea is, by having the blade down, I invite an attack to the top. Once the blade is coming down, I can bat it out of the way, and now I have an opportunity to strike to my opponent's head. There are more flamboyant guards. This one would be called long point, or posta di longa in the Italian traditions. And it is, as it says, you're holding your sword as long as it can go. Despite the fact that you're pointing something at your opponent, this is actually a defensive guard. The reason is, my opponent is right there, but I can't really move the blade closer to them. However, it also prevents them from wanting to get closer. If I did want her to get closer, maybe I want to invite her in so I can hit a better target, I would go back to this guard. Now there isn't something there, I can parry something out of the way, and I can hit back.
Which weapon would you like to see the guards of next? We have saber, rapier, arming, and side. Raise your hand if you would like to see saber guards. All right, and we got a bunch of don't knows and we got a bunch of hands. Saber it is.
Saber.
Would you grab your other saber?
Yes. Saber.
There are multiple styles of saber depending on your region and your school.
And time period.
And time period. This is the...
This would be a Hungarian style saber. It is shorter, it is curved, it has a very stout blade. It is very good for up and close personal cuts, and also delivering very powerful cuts through thick clothing that you might find in a place where it is very cold.
This particular type of guard is very thin, so typically you would see men wear thicker gloves with it. This one might look more familiar to you because many model dress sabers are based off of this one. This is the Italian?
So this would be a British style saber.
Oh, British style saber. I guess they have some good things about them.
There is a lot of similarities.
More than a
between all of
few.
them.
So, remember when I did quinte with small sword to protect high? The saber tradition has kant, and this is to protect against head cuts. It is good strong guard, and sometimes you'll see people whip this out in tournaments, and it's not with a saber, and I can go, oh, you're a saberist. Another preem, Parry Preem, is very popular in saber because it protects you from cuts to the torso, and then you can also go here, and it protects cuts here. Now you'll notice that in most saber guards, I'm keeping my elbow far above my hip. Can anyone guess why I want to keep my elbow above my hip with a saber? My dad, you're not allowed to answer. You taught me this one. I'll give you guys a hint. It likes carrots. Horses, yes! Because the cavalry weapon was designed for horseback fighting. And our stances mimic that. People would be training for cavalry, and they would have them sit on these really low stools. And you had to maintain a particular bend in your knee. Sometimes they just had them on saddles, too. So just picture this. Bunch of young, strapping men training for war, sitting on rocking horses. It's true, it happened. Favorite thing. The carousel was developed to train knights in how to joust. So we can also thank war for one of my favorite amusement park rides.
Hey!
All right. Would you guys like to see what happens when you have a sword, a long sword, and a shorter weapon in your hands?
Yes.
Right here and dagger.
All right.
Yeah. You know,
Should we get our masks on?
yes, let's get our masks on. You know, I was talking to our Eliza over here, and I go, oh, maybe 30 minutes, right? They'll get bored after the history thing. No, you guys are engaged. Thank you so much.
Watching the two-handed, the two-armed weapons is quite fun.
Do you have a second dagger on you?
I don't
If
believe
not,
I do.
how about I do dagger and you do Casey?
Sure.
All right.
There you go. And I'll just go with him.
Okay. So dagger is known as a sail dagger because the protective hand part looks like a sail. And let's actually angle a little bit because we have more of an audience. All right. So, with a single-handed rapier, you want your guard to be pretty high because this is the only thing defending you. With a dagger, you can have your sword staggered like this. So, my opponent attacks, I can parry. Another way to do it is like this. Could you go for my back leg? Or I could do this. It is a very, very different brain to have two blades in your hand. I don't like it. I'm a single-handed weapon girl myself. Let's do that in slow-mo for them. So I'm parrying in second, and you'll notice that my quillions have captured my opponent's blade.
Haha!
This allows me to ride in on a bind to stab. This is why I think the rapier is a really